Hello and welcome back to another Euro Fantasy video. Today we're going to be going over every single team's friendly matches in the build up to the Euros, and as you can see by the graphic on screen, we're going to be going over the minutes from a lot of notable fantasy assets. We're going to be going over the ball recoveries from each of the matches, and then of course the goal scorers and form and stuff as well. So let's jump straight into Group A. So starting off looking at Germany, they didn't have a massive round of friendlies in terms of goals scored and amazing performances. You can see in the top right of their corner that they drew 0-0 with Ukraine and beat Greece 2-1. So a couple of decent results. The main thing to take from those friendlies is that they did play essentially their main squad. Or their main starting 11 that we have been expecting. You can see by the goals it was Havertz that picked up one of them and then Gross with the other, so nothing really exciting to look at when looking at the likes of Wirtz and Musiala if you were interested in them. Looking at the minutes for those players though, Wirtz played a half in each of the games, Musiala played 60 and 90, so not that this really gives off too much, but it's really the only thing we can go off of when looking at the likes of minutes. So those two I think have basically been confirmed to be the starters. Another one, if you're still a bit iffy on Mittelstadt's minutes, again playing a lot of minutes in the friendlies, getting the full 90 against Ukraine and then playing 45 against Greece as well. So in my opinion he will be nailed for the majority of the group stage. Obviously we know he's going to play in match day 1 already. I think he should be safe in terms of minutes throughout the tournament. Ball recoveries, again Mittelstadt looking pretty decent, picked up 10 recoveries through the both games basically. 6 ball recoveries against Ukraine and 4 against Greece. Was also looking quite good with 10 ball recoveries against Greece, so he's only 4.5 million if you did want to maybe double up on the German defence. I think him and Mittelstadt do look pretty decent. For Scotland, there's not too much to go over. The main talking point is going to be Scott McTominay's minutes. Didn't play a single minute in the friendlies, and there was never really any explanation as to why that happened. I imagine it's got to do with something to do with his injury that he picked up towards the end of the season. In my opinion, he'll be fit to start for Friday, and they just didn't want to risk him throughout the friendlies, but we were getting told that he was going to get some minutes against Finland off the bench, and then he just never appeared. So again, like I said, I think they are just trying not to risk them. So if you do have McTominay in your team, I wouldn't say he's 100%, but I would say he's got to be like a 90, 95. I don't think we go into the first game without him. For Hungary, if you haven't seen the predicted lineups already, we are basically predicting Gulácsi to start. It does look highly likely that it is going to be Gulácsi it starts, mainly because, as you can see, the friendly minutes as well down the bottom left. 45 minutes against Ireland, and then he played the full 90 in the 3-0 win against Israel. Main thing to report for Hungary is they got beat 2-1 off of Ireland, which was a little bit interesting, but I wouldn't say it was their full team that was out, but it was a majority of their main players that played in that game against Ireland. Obviously Lang scored, who's someone we had in our ball recoveries video. Only 4 million scored against Ireland, and you can see by his ball recoveries they weren't fantastic over the Euros, over the friendlies even. 5 against Ireland and then only 2 against Israel. You can see by the minutes as well, he did play a fair amount of minutes, 73 against Ireland and 45 against Israel. Again, Szoboszlai, we know he's nailed 90 minutes in the Ireland game, and then 57 against Israel as well. I think the main thing to take note of from the Hungary game is the fact that Orban picked up 17 ball recoveries, so for any interest, if you were maybe on the booze for the 4 million goalkeeper and you still wanted to cover off that Hungary defence, the fact that Orban picked up 17 ball recoveries in the 2 friendly matches is probably a very positive thing, and if you're expecting maybe a clean sheet against Switzerland, you could also look at some ball recoveries, an extra 2 or 3 points from him there as well. For Switzerland, I think the main player that a lot of people are considering right now is going to be Xherdan Shaqiri. Now, I did again speak about this in the lineups video, that Shaqiri will not be able to play the 90 minutes in all 3 of the group stage games. The managers basically stated that it's not going to be possible, and they're not even sure if he can play 90 full minutes in a competitive match. Obviously, you can see by his minutes in the friendlies, he played 90 full minutes against Estonia, and then he was on the bench and only came on for 25 minutes against Austria. So if you're maybe on the wildcard 5 strategy rather than the wildcard 2 strategy, and you need a team for match day 1 and 2, I probably would avoid Shaqiri, because likelihood is if he gets a lot of minutes in this game against Hungary at the weekend, he probably won't get too many minutes in the next game against Scotland. So we'll need to kind of see, but it does look as though the manager is going to be managing his minutes. And then another main point is obviously Akanji as well. Now, he was one of the tops for ball recoveries throughout the qualifying. This is official UEFA stats as well, all these ball recovery here ones. So these are finally a decent, reliable set of ball recovery stats that we can look at. 16 ball recoveries throughout the 2 matches, so again you're talking 2 points in the first, 3 points in the second. That's an extra 5 points from those 2 games. And again, if you're wanting a Switzerland defender, 5 million he is, so he is a bit expensive. I think Widmer might only be 4.5 if you wanted someone who's maybe a bit more attacking, but Akanji's obviously got those ball recoveries, and again one of the top for the qualifiers, and again picking up 16 in the friendlies. So probably looks like one of the best players for ball recoveries, not even just in the defence but in the full game as well. Next up, we're looking at Group B, and if you were looking for an answer to who's going to start between Grimaldo and Cucurella, there really is no answer whatsoever that's been given in the friendlies. You can see by their minutes there, both of them played a half each in both games, so there was no indication on who is going to be the real starter there. For me, I really don't know. It's a total 50-50, I think, between those two, and they probably will switch around throughout the group stage as well. So trying to guess for match day 1 seems like it's going to be half impossible. Rodri didn't play in the first friendly, so he's only played 90 minutes against Northern Ireland, and you can see by his ball recoveries he was one of the top ones that we spoke about in the ball recoveries video. Obviously didn't play the first and then picked up 6 against Northern Ireland, which is pretty decent as well, and again could potentially be on penalties there as well. The graphics a bit squashed for this one when you're looking at the goals and assists, so trying to fit 5 goals into a small corner for 2 games is quite difficult, but hopefully that looks okay and you can kind of make sense of that. Obviously the main standout with those goals and assists is going to be Oyarzabal, picking up 4 goals and a hat-trick in the first match as well. Don't think that's going to earn him a start though, unfortunately. I don't think he is really too high up the rankings. Maybe his friendlies has pushed him up a little bit with that, but I don't think he starts in match day 1 if you're looking at those stats and thinking, wow, I'd like to have him in. I think it might be the backup to the left wing. Obviously Williams looks not nailed, but he looks predicted to start at left wing. I think Oyarzabal is probably going to be the backup if they plan on playing Olmo in the midfield, because Olmo usually plays at left wing as well. So there's a lot of players in that kind of position, which is why I don't think Oyarzabal is going to be making it in there. For Albania, obviously not too many fantasy assets going about for Albania, but if you are looking for one, I don't know if maybe Fan Team or the Bet365 game, they have Albania players at cheap prices on the bench. Probably Bajrami's looking like the main standout from the first couple of games. You can see by his minutes he played 90 in both, so he is going to be absolutely nailed on. He plays just behind the striker in the attacking midfield role. An assist in the first game in their 3-0 win against Liechtenstein, and then a goal and an assist in the second game against Azerbaijan. So if I was going to pick anyone, if you're maybe looking for a cheap player in one of the other games, Bajrami's probably the one to go for. If you're looking for someone who's going to be nailed, again, we'd probably just look at the predicted lineups video from the other day and try pick one of those guys, because I'm not really too sure on the pricing in those other games. For Croatia, it was a really successful set of friendlies, obviously picking up a 3-0 win against North Macedonia and then a big 2-1 win against Portugal as well. Main standouts, obviously Meyer in the first game, picking up 2 goals against North Macedonia. Looks pretty set to start from now on. I didn't have him in my original Croatian predicted lineup, but after recent times and speaking to some of the Croatian news people on Twitter, he does look set to start right wing. And I think he's only 6.5 in the main game, so if you are looking for a 6.5 midfielder, maybe as a differential to someone like Rodri, he could be a pretty decent one. Obviously, it's Spain in the first game though, so could potentially be one to save and wait for Albania. For minutes again, obviously we spoke about this again in the predicted lineups. It looks like Prungracic is going to be the one starting at centre back over Erlich, at least in the first game anyway, after having a really good game against Portugal. Played the full 90 minutes against Portugal as well, where Erlich played none of that. So one to keep an eye on, because I imagine he is quite a cheap player in there. Looking at the ball recoveries too, Vardiol was obviously up there with 6 in the second game against Portugal and didn't play any minutes at all in the game against North Macedonia, so could be potentially looking at someone who's quite good there as well. Again, I think he's 5 million in the main game. I could be wrong with that, so he might be someone that you're maybe looking at for the likes of Fanteam and Bet365 if he is decently priced. And then looking at Italy, it looks like they were really struggling to try and score goals in these friendly matches. A 0-0 draw with Turkey, who have really been conceding a fair amount of goals, and then only a 1-0 win against Bosnia as well. And I think it's been a thing that Italian media has been talking about, the fact that the defence can be pretty solid, but they are struggling going forward. So it could be one to note. For maybe going for Italian strikers, they might not score too many goals. My main player here that I really want to focus on is going to be Cambiaso. He's only 4 million in the main game, and he has the potential to play at right wing back for Italy. And if we were to get confirmation on that, he would 100% be in my team. The only thing is, I think he's only really got about a 60% chance of starting, so it depends if you want to take that gamble. 45 minutes against Turkey and then 90 minutes against Bosnia is promising for the minutes that he's going to get. It just depends, because I think Di Lorenzo is pretty much nailed on for Italy, and obviously is preferred at the right back position. Obviously in a 5-back, if Cambiaso's going to play, he would be playing at right centre back, so it depends. It is kind of tough trying to predict that one, so hoping that Cambiaso is going to get like at least a hint that he's going to play, because I probably would put him in if we get a slight chance, but unfortunately there's just no real confirmation on that one. For Jorginho, he has basically averaged about 60 minutes throughout the 2 friendlies, so I don't know if that's going to keep consistent throughout the Euros. If so, it definitely reduces his appeal of being a player in most teams. Obviously, I don't have official confirmation that he's going to be on penalties, but the fact he's only got 60 minutes, any penalty after that kind of seems irrelevant. And then looking at ball recoveries as well, Jorginho's not in this top 5 list. Again, could be potentially because of his minutes, but if he's going to play those minutes in the Euros, it's not going to be really too good for him for ball recoveries. So I feel like for Jorginho, my appeal on him's kind of lessened a bit, because we don't have the confirmation of penalties and the minutes, and his ball recoveries weren't as good as we originally thought. So I think for Jorginho, I'm just going to ignore him for now. Maybe wait 1 or 2 match days down the line, see if he's on penalties or not. Heading into Group C, and it was a bit of a mixed bag for England. Obviously a nice comfortable 3-0 win against Bosnia, and then a disappointing 1-0 loss against Iceland. But now, the one to take note of here is going to be Cole Palmer. He did play 61 minutes in the first game and 77 in the second, and started in both of them as well. So I don't think he is going to start in the main tournament for England, but he definitely will probably get a fair amount of minutes off the bench. Trent as well is the one that a lot of people have been talking about. Played the full 90 against Bosnia and then came on off the bench, and a lot of people are saying that he changed the game. He had a massive impact off the bench against Iceland. Obviously not enough to get a result out of it, but seems to have been playing well. So again, a 5.5 million defender in the game. If he's going to be playing midfield, he could be a really nice option if you want to go for someone like that. Gahey as well, I think he's basically nailed in defence. There was some rumours yesterday that John Stones was going to be ill and could potentially miss match day 1 as well, which further secures Gahey's spot. 62 minutes against Bosnia, 90 against Iceland. And then you look at the ball recoveries as well. Some really nice ball recovery stats for him there. 1 point, basically, obviously a point for every 3 ball recoveries. 4 ball recoveries against Bosnia, and then 8 against Iceland, which again is some really nice stats and could get some extra points for only 4.5 million. For Denmark, obviously the main talking point is going to be the wing backs and who is going to start. And again, as you can see by the minutes, there's really no indication whatsoever on who the two wing backs are going to be. They all played 120 minutes each, just kind of rotating with that Melee, Christensen and Ba. So I originally yesterday put Ba and Melee in my predicted 11, but there seems to be a couple of Danish people in the comments saying that it is going to be Melee playing at right wing back and Christensen playing at left wing back. So can look at that as potential confirmation from the people who know most about the team. Now, a player that I'm a big fan of and also have in my current draft is Højbjerg. Now, he scored 2 goals and a goal in both of his friendly matches, and the ball recovery stats are really nice for him in the build up to the Euros. You can see by the friendlies as well, picked up 3 in the first match against Sweden and then 7 in the match against Norway. So again, you're talking 1 and 2 points over those games, and based on the minutes as well, Højbjerg played 60 minutes in that first match against Sweden, picking up the 3 ball recoveries, and then played the full 90 where he picked up the 7 against Norway. So I think he is definitely a candidate for someone who is going to be picking up at least, definitely I would say 1 point, but at least 2 points in the majority of games. And obviously, as you can see by the friendly matches as well, has a chance of scoring as well, which makes him really nice. For Serbia, there's not really too much to report on that one. The main talking point, I think, is going to be the fact that a lot of their players are picking up a good few ball recoveries. You can see the top 5 are picking up at least 7 over the 2 matches, which is pretty nice. And again, these guys are going to be pretty cheap if you're looking at anyone. I think Milinkovic-Savic stands out a fair bit. He has 4 in the first match and 5 against Sweden. Also picking up a goal against Sweden as well. So could potentially be quite a good one, considering that he's the only, like Tadic, for example, was considered a forward in this game, which is quite unfortunate. Milinkovic-Savic could be a decent option at midfield. Again, definitely a mega differential if you wanted to go there. Obviously, they've got England in the first match as well, so that's not ideal, but definitely one to keep an eye on for the future rounds. And then for Slovenia, again, a team that doesn't really have too many fantasy assets, and the main one standing out here is going to be Bajol, 90 minutes in both games, and then obviously top for ball recovery, 6 in each game. Now, he plays at centre back for Slovenia, but in the game he's listed as a 5 million midfielder, so that's not really ideal there, which kind of leaves us with no real option, I don't think, for Slovenia. If you're interested, maybe Sesko as a potential differential, 0 minutes in the game against Armenia and then 72, and didn't really pick up any attacking returns there either. Now, looking at Group D, the first team we have is going to be France, and the main talking point here, I think, is probably Thuram's minutes. 81 minutes against Luxembourg in the first match, and then 74 minutes against Canada in the second. Now, he's primarily playing as a left winger there, with Mbappe playing as the striker. Now, that's kind of obviously makes things a little bit better for Mbappe if Thuram is going to be starting, because obviously he's going to be more direct playing as the striker. But also, like, as much as Thuram could have been a good option, obviously if you played UCL Fantasy this year, he was obviously listed as a midfielder playing as a striker for Inter, but in this game he's unfortunately listed as a forward, as are the majority of the French attackers. Dembele listed as a forward, Griezmann a forward, Colomboani of course a forward. Basically all of them are all listed as forwards, which is quite unfortunate, because obviously that forward spot is very valuable, and there's only 3 of them, so that's not great. Next up, we're looking at Austria, and if you're looking for some confirmation on the goalkeeper, again, it doesn't look like it is going to be very clear. Pence played 90 minutes in the first match against Serbia, and then Lindner played the 90 minutes against Switzerland. So 90 minutes each for both the goalkeepers. Once again, it seems like a total 50-50 on who is going to be starting. So in my opinion, I would just look elsewhere. I don't really think it's going to be a safe choice picking one of the Austrian goalkeepers. Danzo was another one we talked about in the ball recoveries video, someone who looked really nice for ball recoveries. 4.5 million if you wanted a different way into the Austrian defence. Again, you can see by his ball recovery stats he does look pretty decent with 6 and 4 in both of the games. One who was really nice was Seawald, I want to say his name is. Played 90 minutes in both of the friendlies. As nailed as you can get for Austria Austria as one of their main centre mids, and he's someone who's always really cheap and UCL fantasy as well. I think it's Leipzig he plays for, and once again he's only a 5 million midfielder in the game here. So if you're looking for someone, again, maybe you've got Jorginho in your team and you're not really so sure on whether you want him, you're looking at someone who's the exact same price, and for ball recovery wise he definitely looks a lot better than Jorginho does. That's 15 ball recoveries, that's 5 extra points in those 2 games. So if you are looking for a cheap midfielder and you don't want to go for Jorginho, I think Seiwald is a very, very nice option. Heading into the Netherlands, and definitely the standout player here is going to be Virgil van Dijk. Again, another player who scored a goal in both of the friendlies, and Netherlands look really, really good. They've came into the friendlies with some really nice results, 2 4-0 wins over Canada and Iceland. Again, you wouldn't really consider them tough teams, but it's good to get that confidence up, and scoring 8 goals in those 2 games into the build-up definitely makes them look really, really good coming into the tournament. Again, the big debate here is who's going to play at right wing. Is it going to be Xavi Simons or is it going to be Frimpong? And again, the friendlies don't really give any clear indication as they both played essentially the same amount of minutes over the 2 games. I do think it's going to be Simons though. Again, spoke more about this in the predicted lineups. I think the team that started against Iceland is going to be the team that plays the first match in the Euros, so that's my opinion on things. Depay, again, someone who would be a massive differential at striker if you are interested in going there. Scored in the first match against Canada and then picked up an assist in the second match against Iceland. He also scored as well with a Frimpong assist in the second match, but it was ruled out. I think it was for offside as well. So again, a mega differential if you are interested in doing that for match day 1. In terms of ball recoveries, De Ligt looks like a big standout. I think he should play, whether it's going to be a 4-back or a 5-back for Holland. I think he has the right centre back nailed down. 10 ball recoveries against Canada and didn't play in the second match, so we can't really get a full average on how he got on, but the fact to get 10 against Canada is a really nice stat. And finally, rounding off Group D, I think the only person really in the conversation for fantasy assets is going to be Zielinski. Scored in the first match. He's on penalties as well, I believe, if Lewandowski's not in the pitch, and obviously Lewandowski has picked up a injury, which definitely rules him out of match day 1 and probably will rule him out of the group stage as well. So I believe Zielinski will be taking the penalties. Don't have confirmation on that, but I'm pretty sure he is the penalty taker when Lewandowski's not in the pitch. Minutes wise, definitely is nailed. He's one of Poland's better players. 61 in the friendlies and only 45 in the second friendly match. And then ball recoveries, he's not amazing for ball recoveries. He probably will pick up a point here and there. I don't think he is probably the best player to get for the price, but he's definitely a backup option if you're desperately needing someone from Poland for whatever reason. So looking at Group E now, and the first team up is Belgium, and someone who has came out of nowhere basically as a massive fantasy asset is De Kuiper, who is a 4.5 million defender for Belgium who plays at left back / left wing back depending on the formation that they play. But you can see by the minutes that he plays, he's got 90 minutes in the first friendly and 75 in the second friendly. And I think with the injuries that Belgium have in defence, he's essentially nailed down that position, at least for the first game or 2. In comparison to Wout-Face as well, he definitely looks a lot better for the price. For the extra 0.5 million, you can look at the ball recoveries. Face only picked up 2 in the first 2 matches of the friendlies, of course. De Kuiper was the main man for ball recoveries for Belgium, with 7 in the first match and then 4 against Luxembourg. So I think if you've got that extra 0.5, or you can get the extra 0.5 from somewhere else, I definitely would be looking to make that upgrade from Face to De Kuiper. So next up is going to be Romania, and it's another one where we're trying to decide who the best 4 million goalkeeper is going to be, and again the friendlies aren't really giving any real indication of who that is. As you can see, Moldovan played the 90 minutes against Liechtenstein and Nita played the 90 minutes against Bulgaria, so again no real indication as to who it is going to be. Again, still confident enough that it is going to be Moldovan. I think he is still the main number 1 goalkeeper for Romania. Other news, Banku was another one who we spoke about as a decent 4 million option for Romania. Obviously got some nice attacking returns as a left back throughout this season, and it was really nice for ball recoveries in the build up, but unfortunately in the friendlies he hasn't really been the same. Whether that's because the teams they're playing against aren't going to hold the ball as much. For example, like Liechtenstein obviously aren't going to have enough of the ball for the likes of Romania players and Banku to recover the ball, if that makes sense. So he's only got one ball recovery in that match and 4 against Bulgaria. So not amazing stats. So maybe one to keep an eye on. The main one 100% is going to be Dragusin, though. You can see his ball recovery stats. I think he might have the most ball recoveries out of everyone in all of the friendlies combined. That's 19 ball recoveries over the 2 matches. So potentially, if you do want to look at a Romanian defender, Dragusin's probably not going to pick up too many attacking returns, obviously being a centre back rather than a wing back. But the ball recovery stats are really, really nice for him. There are 11 ball recoveries against Liechtenstein is kind of mad. And obviously you can see the guy beneath him as well, Rakovitan, picked up 13 ball recoveries in that match. I don't think he's predicted to start though. I think it's a different centre back that will be playing over him. Slovakia are also coming into the Euros with 2 4-0 victories, and again some really nice form for them. So one to keep an eye on, maybe not be relying on clean sheets against that kind of team. Obviously I think Slovakia have been scoring a good few goals in recent matches. I believe they took 2 off Portugal in a recent match as well, so could potentially be one to keep an eye on. Maybe the Belgium clean sheet is not as nailed as some people are expecting. So a couple of good games for Slovakia, of course. In terms of ball recoveries, Skriniar was probably the main one there, picking up 13 over the 2 games, and mainly 11 against San Marino, only 2 against Wales. And you can see by his minutes as well, 90 minutes in both games, so I'm not really sure how he's managed 9 against San Marino and only 2 against Wales, playing the same amount of minutes. But still some really nice stats in there. And then for Ukraine, it's one of the first teams to play 3 friendlies before the Euros. They played Germany, Poland and Moldova, and again not really looking too exciting over the first 2 games. Obviously it was basically a totally different team for each of the 3 matches. I think the game against Moldova was essentially their main team, other than having Dovbyk on the bench and Zinchenko, I believe, was also on the bench. Other than that, I think it was the main starting 11 for Ukraine, and obviously that's the one where they picked up their big win, so I think that's where you really need to be focusing on. Obviously Germany didn't score. Against Poland in their 3-1 defeat, it was Dovbyk who picked up a goal, and then he came on at half time against Moldova and picked up another goal 3 minutes later. So I've been saying it since the start. I think Dovbyk is my really big outside shout if you want to save some budget in the attackers and maybe go for 2 and then 1 cheaper version. I'd definitely be looking at Dovbyk, because I think he could do really, really good against Romania especially. Can see by his minutes, 17 against Germany, 76 against Poland and 45 against Moldova. Obviously with the goalkeepers as well, if you've been keeping up to date, the 3 goalkeepers for Ukraine played 1 of each of the friendlies. So Trubin played against Germany the 90 minutes, Bushan played against Poland the 90 minutes, and then Lunin played against Moldova in the 90 minutes as well. Sudikov is another one who definitely is on a lot of people's radar now after the recent friendly against Moldova. He picked up a goal and 2 assists, I believe it was. A goal and 2 assists against Moldova, and his minutes are definitely secure as well. So 17 against Germany, then 81 against Poland, and 90 against Moldova. Now, I think he might have been playing striker against Moldova in like a 2-striker formation, but most of the time he plays as an attacking midfielder just behind the striker. So whether it's going to be him and Dovbyk, you can see the link up was pretty nice in that second half of the game against Moldova. Dovbyk scoring, Sudikov getting the assist. 5 minutes later, Sudikov scoring and Dovbyk getting the assist. So definitely a decent link up to watch out, and I think Ukraine could do really well at this tournament. And then finishing things off with Group F, of course, Portugal have a lot of players that we definitely want to take an interest in. The main players that done really well in the friendlies is Bruno Fernandes and Ronaldo as well. Now, Portugal again had 3 friendlies, so that's another one that we need to keep an eye on. First match and second match didn't have Ronaldo in the squad, and then he played against Ireland and basically ran the show. He had a fantastic game and scored 2 goals. So while I didn't have Ronaldo in my plans for match day 1 after that performance against Ireland, I'm definitely considering him, and we'll kind of need to see what happens with that. But Bruno Fernandes as well, picking up 2 goals against Finland, and for me I think you 100% have to have Bruno Fernandes in your team. If you don't already, I would try my best to try and fit him in, because again, Ronaldo isn't going to be playing the full 90 minutes all the time, which means Bruno Fernandes is going to be on those late penalties when Ronaldo comes off, and of course still has a huge potential for attacking returns with goals and assists as well. Vitinha as well is a really nice one. Looking at his minutes, I think he's basically nailed on in that centre mid position. 90 minutes against Finland, 84 against Croatia, and then didn't play against Ireland. But you're looking at his ball recoveries as well, 7 against Finland, 3 against Croatia, and obviously didn't play against Ireland. So someone who can potentially get forward, score some goals, get some assists, and he is looking pretty decent for ball recoveries as well. And he is only 6 million if you are interested in him. Looking at the other players too, the centre backs is obviously where we are taking a bit of a focus, as some of them are quite nicely priced. For example, Inacio, honestly, I think Inacio is going to play in the first game. Looking at those minutes in the friendlies, 45, 90 and 90, I do think he is going to be playing in that left centre-back role, whether it's going to be a 4 at the back or going to be a 5 at the back. If it's a 5 at the back, I think he 100% plays at left centre-back. If it's a 4 at the back, I think it's probably like a 75% chance. But Antonio Silva's probably the other one who is really right up there in terms of starting. You can see his minutes as well, did get some really nice minutes over the friendlies, but for me I think I do slightly prefer Inacio. Antonio Silva, however, did look pretty decent for ball recoveries, 7 and 5. He was the top for Portugal throughout the friendlies. Diaz as well looking pretty decent, but he is quite expensive. I probably wouldn't go there. And then Vitinha as well, of course, picking up 10 over the 3 games, or the 2 that he played. And for Turkey, it's probably again a team that didn't really do too fantastically in the friendlies. They only scored 1 goal, probably not as ideal as they would have liked. Of course, one of those games was a really difficult game against a solid Italy defence, but the 2-1 defeat to Poland obviously isn't that ideal. In terms of minutes, Güler really didn't pick up too many minutes. I believe he was still away with the Real Madrid squad for the Italy game. I could be totally wrong on that, but I know most of the Real Madrid players missed the first friendlies because they were still away. Only played 45 minutes in the second game. A lot of people seem to think he is 100% nailed, though. Obviously, I think he was probably the most popular Turkey player in fantasy terms. But in terms of minutes, the friendlies don't look too great for him, but I think he is still going to be playing for the actual tournament. Gunok played 90 minutes, and I think it's always been between Gunok and Kakir for that goalkeeper position, but Kakir played no minutes. It was Bayindir, the Man United goalkeeper, who played in the first match, and everyone expects Gunok to be the one starting. So if you did want a Turkey goalkeeper for 4.5 million, he's probably going to be the one to start. Now, another one to keep in mind is going to be that Mulder played both of the 90 minutes in both of the games. Now, he's a 4.5 million defender, and he played at left back for both games. Now, he isn't still expected to start. I'm not sure what's going on with Kadioglu, who is the one who's expected to start as the Turkey left back, but he really didn't play any minutes throughout the friendlies. So just in case, Mulder's a 4.5 million defender if you were looking for someone who could potentially play. But again, like I said, I really don't think it is going to happen. For the case of Çalhanoğlu, again, obviously on penalties and free kicks and corners as well. So I still think he looks like a really nice option. Playing deeper as more of a defensive midfielder rather than playing as the attacking midfielder, which we would have liked. But again, he's still nailed on for minutes, he's still on all set pieces, and you can see his ball recoveries are still pretty consistent as well. He's picked up 6 in both of those games, which is an extra 2 points. So if you were to consider the fact that he's a midfielder, if he scores, I believe it's 6 points, then you're talking 2 extra points from ball recoveries. So you're maybe talking 10 points plus every time Çalhanoğlu scores. So hopefully he can get on the score sheet a good few times. Obviously penalties are more common in the international tournament. So hope is that Çalhanoğlu is going to be able to get himself on the score sheet, whether it's through free kicks or penalties. And finishing things off with Czech Republic and Georgia, two teams which probably don't have too many fantasy assets coming out of them. For Czech Republic, obviously came in with a really nice score against Malta, beating them 7-1. That team was basically their whole substitute team though, so there's nothing really to look at with them. The likes of Cheto, who picked up 2 goals, Cerny, who done really well as well. Players who probably aren't going to start in the first match against Portugal. And Jurasek as well. Someone was asking about Jurasek. It was a different Jurasek. There's 2 different Juraseks. So one of them picked up a goal and one of them picked up a goal and assist. Again, still not predicted to start though, unfortunately. It's really the team that played against North Macedonia that beat them 2-1 that is more than likely going to be the starting 11 for Czech Republic. So when you're looking at the minutes, you're really just looking at that one game because the rest of them don't really matter too much. In terms of ball recoveries, for example, Souček didn't obviously play in that game against Malta and then picked up 6 against North Macedonia. So again, when players don't play, the ball recoveries can be a bit inconsistent. That could just be a one-off where Souček's picked up 6, which is why it's good to have a couple of games. But again, I think the appeal of Souček has came right down as well with the fact that he's not on penalties and he's probably about 3rd or 4th on the list for penalties, having Barak taking one over him and Schick being the main penalty taker. And then for Georgia, again, only one friendly for Georgia, playing against Montenegro, and again there's not really too much to go off of the fact that they only played one match. Kasia picked up 9 ball recoveries. Again, don't think he's really too much of a fantasy asset though. It's really only Kvaratskhelia who played 80 minutes in that match who is really one to consider. But that is going to end off this video. Hopefully that is enough information from the friendlies to keep you knowing and up to date with how each of the teams are going on. Hopefully this helped with making your fantasy team. Hopefully it helped with a couple of 50-50s or a couple of tough picks, and hopefully it introduced a couple extra players that you might have not been considering. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like, make sure to subscribe as well. There will be another video out later today. This video was supposed to be out yesterday, but the graphics took me so long, so it had to be delayed to today. There will be a team selection video out later today. I believe it will be about 7 o'clock-ish that comes out, so make sure to turn notifications on for that one, and then we'll have our deadline stream tomorrow. So again, make sure to subscribe with notifications on, and I'll see you all in the next one.